Welcome to Two Finger Tuesday, a production of the James McGee Show. Conversations are just easier had over a good old two-finger. So pour yourself a glass of your favorite booze and join your host, James McGee, for a drink and some real talk.
Welcome back to the James McGee Show. I am your host. I am James McGee, and it is Tuesday, so you know what time it is. It's Two Finger Tuesday. Got our favorite co-host, Joe Collins, our other one. Will be popping in a minute, but we got a special guest with us tonight. He has been on High Level Human Podcast before, the host of One More I'm Out Here, Jason Kiefer. He's coming on tonight. We're going to dive into a few things. And Jason, man, appreciate you you coming on and hanging out with us. We're going to wait until Tom gets here to talk about what we're drinking, because we got a toast. Joe's got some news for us tonight, and we're going to save our toast for that. So let's dive in to Dolton, Illinois. What a fucking train wreck going on in Dolton, Illinois. Jason, you've been following that. Y'all covered it pretty extensively on your show from the beginning. You've covered it several months ago. Tell us what the fuck's going on over there.
I've never seen more incompetency in government, in small town government, where somebody thinks she's a big town mayor.
Super mayor. I
mean, yeah, you think that she's the mayor of New York City, the way she walks around, the way she carries herself, and if anybody's watched any of their council meetings or their special board meetings that are televised, oh my God. I mean, it's literally Saturday night entertainment. Watching, and that community is predominantly African-American. And to hear the bedlam that goes on and some of the names that she is called by her quote unquote constituents, mm-hmm. and how they can't get her out. That's what I don't understand. How she still sits in the fucking seat that she's sitting.
That's what I don't understand too. And this town, Joe, had, when she took over in 2021, had a $5 million surplus. They are $3 million. It's not funny, but fuck, it's funny. They're $3 million in the hole. So that means there's $8 million somewhere.
And I know we were talking about population before we were recording. We were talking about populations where you guys are from, whatever. So Dalton's got a population of 20,621 as of 2022. That's not a huge. I mean, it's decent size. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a huge place when you're looking at population. And if you look at their meetings, they are very well attended, to the point where they hire private security and people are outside banging to get in. I mean, it's nuts.
She has I hear Tommy, I think. Let's see.
Hey, there
he
is.
is.
I'm gonna get fired.
All right, so Tommy, we're talking about the Dolton, Illinois stuff right now, and after we're done talking about that, we're gonna do our toast, and Joe's gonna tell us his good news.
Okay.
So, how versed are you in this? What's going on in Dolton, and how far is that real far from y'all? How far are y'all from Chicago?
Well, I'll just say Dolton is a suburb of Chicago on the south side. It's pretty close into Chicago, and that's about 4.5 to 5 hours for me from Cincinnati.
I got you. Really, it sounds like not far enough right now. That place is erupting. And, it's about the same size of the city you were the chief of. My concern, so the chief, obviously, this guy, so he was the deputy chief.
Right.
The township comes in and says, hey, he's got to go. And they do something. The mayor says, you're not allowed to do it. So They fire him. He comes back, or they put him on leave. He comes back to work. So they fired from insubordination. He was the acting chief. So she hires him and pretty much says, fuck y'all, I'm going to show y'all. She one-ups him and hires him as the chief.
Well, and Jimmy, I don't know if you were aware of this. When you first brought this up, I actually thought you were talking about the mayor initially. If you look back at the news, for about 6 to 8 months ago, the mayor there was in major hot water because she was in trouble for all these trips that they were taking on the city dime, and she was involved in this big old I did today indicated that even Mayor Lightfoot apparently was involved in some investigation of her from Chicago. So, yeah, if she's the one doing the appointing, I definitely think that there's probably shady business going on there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this deputy chief has gotten $200,000 worth of overtime in 2 years, and he's not eligible for overtime. So if you're a city that size, I'm going to guess they have probably a 40-person police department.
Yeah.
What about those men and women? What about those men and women? How do you get this back under control? I guess you got to. They're still chaotic because they don't have it under control. What can a governor come in? Can somebody come in and say, "Hey, you got to fucking go"? She changed the locks on City Hall. She's doubling down, and until they put her in jail, she's just going to keep doing what she wants.
Yeah.
Hey, the deficit's worse. I just pulled it up. So they have a deficit of 3.6 million, and they have more than $6 million in outstanding debt that they can't pay vendors.
Yeah.
So they're almost $10 million in the hole.
So, okay, 10 million in the hole plus the 5 million surplus.
Right. So they're 12 to 13 million dollars that she's wasted in the last 3 years.
All those first class flights were very expensive that they were taking.
Well, she deserves them. She's the queen.
Yes.
That is a queen right there. She in her mind.
Right. Well, that's what she calls herself, super mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, Tom, she's got a security detail.
Oh, I'm sure.
No, she does. A 4-person security detail. She's a part-time mayor.
Yep.
In a town of 20,000 people.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this, not that I'm an authority on Dolton, but of course, being the super rail fan that I am, Dolton is a very notable railroad crossroads up there. And in my travels years ago, I used to go there to watch trains, and that is a very depressed community economically. So not only can the residents ill afford to have a super queen for a mayor or super mayor, but certainly the police department and all the public services that are in, she and her, command level people are leading. They need good, support too, and they're not getting it. I saw in an article today, actually, that not only did the officers make a no confidence vote on that chief that was fired, but the command staff that was involved in the no confidence vote.
Yeah. So, Jason, if 3 years ago, Tom's right, that town is not a rich town.
No.
For them to have a surplus of $5 million 3 years ago, somebody was doing something right. I don't see how that happens. And I've never dealt with municipality budgets, and I just don't understand how that goes unnoticed or how that just all of a sudden happens.
Well, the way I understand it too is there's been a rotation in the, I don't know if it's a village council or a city council, but the council, there's been a little bit of a rotation. And I think she was hand picking people and, essentially ballot stuffing to get her people in. But then her people even turned on her and walked out. They've walked out of meetings saying,
well, they don't want to go to prison.
Exactly.
Right. They're smart.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I got to find the article. I literally just saw this the other day. Just bear with me. But I know she's under like 4 different indictments by the FBI. Let's see. Hold on.
At what point do you just remove her? And who?
Why is she allowed to sit there?
Can the governor, and I know none of us are from Illinois again, but Joe, can the governor have her removed? I know they did that with the with the sheriff in Florida in Broward County a couple years ago after the shooting. Who can go in and say, because apparently the city council can't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got to be honest with you. My understanding is if you're an elected official, there's very little that can be done. I mean, unless you're criminally charged or arrested, that maybe there's some kind of a either recall or maybe some kind of constitutional amendment within a state law that allows for that. But I think it's very difficult to get rid of elected officials. Remember that guy that ran for Congress? Excuse me. The guy that ran for Congress a year or so ago completely fabricated his background and his degrees and all that other stuff. And he stayed. He refused to step down. And there was nothing they could do in Washington, D.C.
Well, a couple of years ago in New Orleans, they unseated a 20-year district attorney with the guy under federal indictment. He ended up winning. They said if he'd have got convicted, he would have had to vacate, but he was under indictment when he got elected. So, that's it. Yeah. So I don't know because we just established there's, $10 to $15 million missing. I think there should be an indictment pretty soon.
Yeah.
And the police chief just got indicted. Well, I'm anxious to see, Jason, you think he's going to turn on her?
I think you'll see it. If he wants to keep a job, and I don't know how it works over there, but if he wants to keep a job and a pension, I think he will. But
or stay out of prison.
So this article says subpoenas served in recent weeks to the two. And this is what we were talking about earlier. The two municipalities led by Tiffany Henyard, the Village of Dolton and Thornton Township. So she's the administrator of Thornton Township. That was her title. I couldn't remember.
Okay. Yeah, that's in the same area there, so that makes sense.
Looks like a recall is what has to happen for her to be removed.
That's unbelievable.
So she's laundering money essentially, and I'm speaking. This is Jason speaking. I'm not saying accusing her, but this is what she's thought to have done with her political committee, her cancer charity that she's throwing money through. So that way, you get a big tax write-off with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this lady's a piece of garbage, an absolute piece of garbage.
Yep.
And she doubles down. There's no remorse. It is.
Oh no.
She's combative in everything. It's everything is a fuck you. Yeah. She's a victim. She's not backing down one bit. She'll never admit any kind of fault or any kind of guilt. She's. Yeah.
I don't know why you all are coming after me. That's all you hear. That's all you hear from her.
Yeah.
Yep. She's one of those that's a professional victim.
Yep. And I'm surprised she hasn't pulled the race card, but really that whole area is, I mean, there's really nobody there that's calling her out from that's, it would be in a different,
Well, she kind of is. Yeah. She wants to, she really can't because everybody else is black, but she has said that. She has said that on camera. I can't believe y'all are doing this to a black woman.
Yeah.
That's what got me. I think that's one of the things that triggered me on this when I started seeing it is where her own people were turning on her and she was trying to turn it back.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh no, she's doubling down.
Yep.
All right. So let's go on what we're drinking. We're going to do Joe last and he can tell us his news. And Tommy, what you drinking? Are you drinking anything? Or you been?
Man, I'm so, this has been so, unfortunately, this is all I have. I have a railroad water.
Railroad water. So
Jason, what you drinking typical beer or you got a two finger? You drinking your?
I got my Miller Lights.
Got your Miller Lite? Well, I'm having I'm going back to my roots. I'm going with Jameson, of course, as usual. Drinking from the James McGee Show official glass from Engraved in USA, courtesy of Rich Crumman, our friend.
Awesome.
So, Joe, tell us what you're drinking. Tell us your news, and we're going to do a toast.
I have a real Wisconsin old-fashioned whiskey bullet, and we became grandparents on Thursday morning at 1:48 in the morning. So we had Paige on the show a few months back, and now she made me Papa Joe. So
that's awesome,
Papa Joe.
Congratulations.
So when Paige was on, was it your birthday, Joe?
Yep.
And it was Two Finger Tuesday, and she was drinking water, and then y'all came out with the news a couple of days later that she was that she was pregnant, and that's great. Give her our love, and we'll have to have her on in a few months so she can tell us how's life being a cop and a mother at the same time. So we'll have to have her back on for that. So
is
cheers to her.
Is this first baby and first grandchild for you?
It is. Yep.
That's exciting.
That's awesome.
It is. And it is definitely great. So I want to talk about the DNC. Started last night a little bit, and not as much as getting into I'm sure we'll get into the politics of it, but a couple things that I noticed was and had to laugh at was the security fence around the DNC when they are totally against the border wall, but they put a fence around the event. And, Tim Walz and Kamala, they don't even hide how anti-cop they are. They don't even hide it. I've never seen so many policemen in my life.
Yeah. And oh, go ahead.
And the third thing I noticed was, or heard was, you had to produce ID to get into the event.
That's what I was going to say.
I thought that was racist.
You had the ID to get through the wall to get into the event, right?
Yeah, you had to get ID to get through the wall to get through the event, but you don't need ID to vote. I just think there's some hypocrisy. It bothers me. The police thing really bothers me. What bothers me more than anything, guys, is they're not being called out on it.
Right.
They're not being called out on.
Well, of course,
either you're pro-police, either you support the police, or you don't. And I think it's a slap in the face for it to even be in Chicago with all this police presence when they've had, I think, 385 homicides just this year.
That would be the last place that I want to hold a convention.
Yep.
Of any sort.
Oh, I agree with that, Jason. Yeah. But I think maybe I'm wrong. I think it's a slap in the face to people in Chicago.
Yeah.
Well,
like we can't protect you, but we could bring all these rich people in, and we could sure protect them with walls and thousands of cops from all over the country. But we can't get this city under control. But we can sure clean it up for y'all.
Yeah.
Well, and it's another strategic blunder. Her pick for VP does nothing for the ticket. Them holding this in Chicago, they don't have to win Chicago. They're going to get Chicago.
Right.
You hold, like when the RNC did it in Milwaukee, that was to try to win back part of Wisconsin and turn the state red. It's like, why would you not do it in one of the areas that you have to try to gain some traction?
Right.
And I think
like Ohio.
Right.
Florida, Ohio.
I think
Florida.
I think that Milwaukee. I mean, I think Milwaukee worked with the RNC, and I'm a little bit biased because my co-host on our podcast, he was actually there. He was an alternate delegate and went up to Milwaukee, and it was great. We did a recap earlier today of the first day of the DNC, and I wanted to hear his take on the differences. And he's not there. He wanted to go. Oh, dude, he was begging for somebody to get him a goddamn ticket, credentials to be.
He would have went.
Oh, he'd have been there the whole week, and we'd have been popping popcorn with the Instagrams and whatever that, because he doesn't give a shit. But his description of just what he saw, it was just like us all watching on TV, because I've got it on here right now. I don't know why, but it's like a train wreck and I have to watch it. But he goes, I asked him, I said, did they put fences up? He was like, well, yeah, they had security, but they weren't fences like that. And he said there was nobody tearing down the fences and breaching the fences. He said, yeah, there were protests, just like anywhere else, but not nearly to the caliber that we're seeing on whatever news network. They're all showing it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They're all showing it, which I find amusing.
I think they're downplaying it. Some of them are downplaying
Some of them, yeah, but they're at least showing it, which shocked me. Yeah. But he said watching, and I said, yesterday was the first day. It's like going to a concert and you don't give a shit about the opening band. Okay, I can skip that, but if Jason Aldean's playing or whatever, just pick your headliner. I can miss, I can drink a couple more beers in the parking lot cheaper and then go in and see the big guy. Well, I'm watching it now and I'm still seeing empty seats on the second day where the RNC was full from Monday all the way through to the end. And he was like, dude, it was electric. Just good energy. And he was like, I was there. I'm not watching it on TV, but he goes, this just looks completely different. And I said, why, Andrew? Because they are different.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
And
Andrew used to be a township trustee. He's very involved in politics in here. And Tom, I live in Anderson.
Okay.
And
you're local. Yeah.
I work for Woodlawn.
Okay.
But I live in Anderson. So Andrew was a township trustee. And he's hooked up with all of the Republicans. And
gotcha. Okay.
And he's like, dude, these people are just absolutely fucking nuts.
Wow.
And he knows not just local people. He rubs elbows. And the people that he got to talk to, and he said, you don't see any of this, like the interviews and stuff on the Democratic side that you see on the Republican side.
Yeah.
So Tom and Joe, y'all are still in tune with a lot of cops on the street. Do they feel? Do the cops on the street feel slighted that this ticket is so blatant about being anti-cop and defund the police, and nobody seems to care, and the polls are showing that she could win.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tom, the cops on the street are feeling?
I think that the cops are just that much more galvanized toward the conservative ticket. I mean, historically, at least in this area, the police are a conservative group. A lot of time, most of the time, you'll see the fire departments typically are more, for the union side, where they're more, for the Democrat ticket. All the police I know are all very, against Kamala and Tim Walz. I don't know that they feel slighted. I think it's just a kind of one of those like, yeah, that figures kind of a thing. I think what's so amazing about it is how tone deaf the Democratic Party is based on what has happened the last few years and just how blundering they look that they would pick two people to be their candidates who are just so, for me to say bad for America doesn't even capture. They're just so incompetent or inept for what we need that I just don't. I think people are just kind of like, and this whole business about the polling and everything like that. Honestly, I don't put a lot of stake in that because I just don't think they poll conservative people that much. I think, and the media is already on the Democrat side anyway, and they're gonna report the way they see it. What they want, rather, I should say, and so they're naturally gonna report that that Kamala's gaining on Trump and that he's tanking in the polls and this and that, and I don't know. It's a hard one to call because Trump does have a lot of things about him that are not exactly most warm and fuzzy American traits that we like to see in a political candidate, and so he'll have to win in spite of himself. But it would just be. I can't even wrap my head around it if the other two win. I just can't.
Let me tell you something. So I've got an old man. He's 92 years old that lives next door to me. And we just started speaking about 2-3 months ago after 3 years. Him and I fell out when I first moved here because I wasn't cutting my grass on the same days that everybody else was. And he had to come tell me about it. So I told him pretty much what to do with himself. But it's surprising because this man he's very rich, very conservative.
Yep.
And he stopped the other day and I said something about Trump and this man went off. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have all I'm going to say is he's a 92-year-old white man. He said he's voted for Kamala Harris because he hates Trump that much.
Yeah.
And that kind of scares me. Now, his vote doesn't mean anything. Louisiana, Trump's going to win 70-30. I mean, it's, Louisiana's not even remotely up for grabs. But there are people like my neighbor in Ohio, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania. That kind of scares me.
Yeah. But he's a bully. That's what people don't like. Mm-hmm. I think that's what cost him the election against Biden last time around, was because he bullied him during that debate, and people were like, "Oh, they just didn't like the way that looked."
Well, I think that, and I'm coming tomorrow night. I'm gonna come out with some things that I feel like, not that I'm anybody cares what I think, but his strategy, they've got to, and look, you got plenty of time. They've got to get off of all this. Who gives a fuck about her race? Who cares about any of this other stuff? Right. Get with the issues. There's two main issues out there: the economy and immigration. And they need to be nailing those home. And like I said, one of my TikTok rants today, okay, Trump's mean. He says mean shit on Twitter, but it's not about anything but policy. People have got to see, and then I did another rant on TikTok that the Democrats, and look, it's, I guess on a strategy standpoint, it's smart somewhat. They don't address issues. They just patronize and they pander their voters, and because they think they're dumb. They think they could just, do these silly videos with Tim Walz prancing around a stage like a fairy. It just doesn't make any sense. But you know what? It seems to be working with their base, because their base cares about popularity and not the issues. But that's where people go just say, okay, Trump's an asshole, but let's look at his policies compared to her, because I would be scared. Joe, you think we have a recruiting problem right now? Wait till them two Mama Lukes are in office. Nobody's going to want to be a cop in the United States.
Yeah. Well, you got almost every single major law enforcement organization that's come out supporting Trump. And if you look at any of the images and stuff coming out of Chicago, they're tying everything together. It's defund the police, free Palestine. The borders aren't that bad. There's fewer crossings now than there were. Well, because there was the most that there ever been in the history of the border. And so you drop it down a couple of notches, and then you can say that it's better, right?
Yeah, you can call that a win.
Yeah. And gas has come down from $5.80. It's like $4 now. So hey, there's a celebration. Let's say how wonderful it is. And people believe it. Like you're saying, it's like they believe what they're saying, even though they haven't been that way. I love the fact where she's coming out with this policy and some on the economy and doing all these different things when she gets elected, that she's still a VP for 158 days, for God's sakes.
Right? Yep. Why haven't you done it? You hadn't done a fucking thing.
Well, she's busy trying to figure out what price gauging is.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saving all my shit for tomorrow night on the economy with the price gauging. She's an idiot, but that's the thing. When I say pandering, that's what I mean, is because you talk about, hey, we're going to price fix. Well, first off, that will destroy an economy. They tried that in the 70s. It destroys an economy. But to her, that's why all they do is pander and they patronize, because to the base that they're trying to get out there and vote, that all sounds, they're going to fix. Well, they don't talk about the domino effect of everything else that has to be fixed. I'm going to break all that down tomorrow night. But you're right. They throw they don't give a platform. They throw these little, this little bait out there. They throw these little bullets and people bite on them. Now, Kamala's going to fix the prices. No, first off, she can't. It's not going to happen. But it doesn't matter. Once you get in office, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I've got, and James, I got a graph that I don't know if I showed it on 2 episodes ago or not, but if not, I'll send it to you. But that whole Maduro effect from Venezuela with what they're wanting to do, and watching how inflation just literally just went almost
super yeah.
And I can't even remember the exact number, 1,300% or whatever it was. But I've got that graph. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
and who's to say that they're going to fix the prices at something reasonable?
Right.
It's like, well, what's the fixed price?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the baseline and what are we calling reasonable?
Exactly.
Well, when you fix a price, you can't fix the 20 steps before the price gets on the shelf. You can't fix all those steps. And what they're not telling these gullible people that are listening to that is that somewhere down the chain, your job's in there and you don't get any raises or you end up losing your job.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, what they'll do is that they'll set the price of what eggs cost, but there'll be 8 in the carton.
Exactly.
They'll set the price of gas, but it'll be for a liter.
Yeah.
And Tom brought up earlier, and I'm outnumbered. I'm the only fireman in the group, but that our unions typically are leaning Democrat. But it's funny, like I know I got into the union when I was 21, so that was in 2021, and all I heard growing up, unions Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
and then the IAFF backed George W. Bush, which I was like, well, that's weird, and I'm young and not knowing, the ways of the world and how all this shit works. I'm just glad to be a fireman and in the pension system.
Right, for sure.
So, and as it's so funny to see that the IAFF now is very, very divided. I'm not even saying for Harris, but when it was Biden and Trump, you're seeing a more divide where that wedge is starting to get driven in a little bit more, and you are seeing a little bit more conservative. Just depends on where you're looking. It's just like anything else. I mean, you go to you go to Baltimore, all these big cities that are like just really entrenched, strong, old unions. You're probably not going to sway them away from the Democrat, but you have a lot of people that are just doing it on their own.
Yeah.
People are starting to free think, which I think is fantastic.
Oh no, go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
But instead of just going with the flow and being a sheep, people are actually looking like, wait a minute, this guy, this party's fucking me over.
Yeah,
and that's good for my family, so I'm voting this way.
Yeah. But I think too, a lot of the old school, people that are like you were talking about, the old union sort of sticking with Democrat thing and the old auto workers thing and all that stuff. There are things that are not bad about the Democrat Party. They at times have a better product than the Republicans in certain areas. But the problem is that has all become so. I mean, if you ever listen to Bill Maher, I mean, he's a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, and he is one of the most conservative liberals I've ever heard. And he will call out the Democrats left and right for their far left woke stuff. He hates that stuff. And to me, he reminds me of that kind of old school Democrat who is, that has, like, his heart is in the place of he's liberal hearted, and that's fine. But he's seeing how damaging this wokeness and all this BS that's going on in our country right now, how that's damaging America. And I love the fact that he calls them out.
Yeah. I had a former, not to get too far off topic, but I had a former union president, and I was with Union. Tom, where Union Township, Claremont County is.
Yeah, actually, we were just looking at the house there tonight.
So I was there for 14 years. So all full-time fire department. We had 51 guys, and as strong a union as you can have for that many people.
Mm-hmm.
And we battled our administration every contract. But my union president was a diehard union guy. And he was like, somebody rolled in with like a brand new Toyota Tacoma, and he lost his shit. He was like, well, are you part of the union? Yeah. Well, you bought a Toyota. It's not made in America. He goes, more of this truck's made in America than your Ford.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is.
It's sad but true.
So then this guy, the guy that's driving the truck, says, does your wife shop at Walmart? Well, yeah. Well, they're union busters. So don't come to me guns blazing, because I'm coming right back at you with something. You can't have it all one way.
Right.
Our society's just not built that way anymore.
Right.
Maybe back in the 40s and 50s. Okay, I'll give you that. But now you have to have a little bit of levity there.
Yeah, when you talk about the free thinking, one thing you can't say about Republicans, we don't go with the establishment in the party because Trump would have never been the candidate. Mm-hmm. The Republican establishment did not want him, still really doesn't want him. But the Democrats, it's nothing but establishment. I mean, you've got, look at what they did to RFK. Look what they've done to Tulsi Gabbard. Two, in my eyes, pretty good people. I'm panicking a little bit over just the thought of either one of these two yo-yos being in the White House. But if RFK was on the ticket or Tulsi Gabbard was on the ticket, I'd still be going with the Republican candidate, but I wouldn't be scared. I wouldn't be scared for this country because of them. Jason, tell us, you talked on your show tonight about something that may be in the works that would be really good for Trump with RFK.
I want to see if I still have it. Hold on real quick. Let me see if I
Tom and Joe, I don't know if y'all heard this, but this would be pretty good for them.
Later this evening, I was seeing some of the stuff coming across.
I don't know if I may have deleted the actual video, but yeah.
Just
so
give us a little rundown of it.
Yeah. So RFK's running mate, and I don't even know her name, to be honest with you, because I just haven't paid that much attention. But I talked with my co-host Andrew, and I was like, there's some things that RFK says that I agree with, that I kind of like, but there's a lot that I don't. But I don't like the fact that he's a third party candidate, because now you're pulling votes one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I said he's the modern day Ross Perot.
Absolutely. The only good thing is because his family's Democrat, it might sway Democrats to vote for him, which would hurt them.
Right. And so I guess his running mate went out on a podcast, and I played the video where she, and I'm going to paraphrase, but pretty much said, like, you know what, we're kind of toying with the idea of just siding with Trump because we don't want Harris and Walz.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what, if that happens. So my brother texted me, and I talked to him afterward, and he brought it up, and I said, well, we just talked about it on the podcast. And he was like, what they need to do is they need to wait. Let them do their pomp and circumstance, that this bullshit that's on my TV right now. Let them get through it, and then make the announcement on Monday. And Andrew said the same thing. Let them make the announcement, and then that's gonna shatter the fucking earth.
Yeah. Wow, that would be huge.
No, I think it will.
And James and I were talking before we went live. If that happens, that's a huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't think that RFK ever thought he had a chance to win. I think he was trying to prove at some point. I don't know exactly what point he was trying to prove, but he was pushing. I gotta give the guy credit, man. He was out there hitting every podcast, hitting every interview that he could that would have him.
That's great.
So,
well,
it'll be interesting to see.
I think he's really passionate about some of his stances that he has. I think he's looking for a platform. I think he's looking to have a voice. And I think if Trump gave him something like Secretary of the EPA or something, I think he would do it. And I think he'd be good at that. That's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of a bullshit. The EPA secretary, I think, is usually the designated survivor for the during the State of the Union. But I think he just wants some kind of platform. And you're right, man. That guy was on Theo Vaughn's podcast. He was on everything.
I think it's good. I think it would be good for if the Trump campaign, if they're talking, if they are in fact, if this is a plan that may come to fruition, and who knows? We'll find out. But I think it's a good place. Give him a cabinet spot, because that way he's controlled. You've got him, in your team, and it's just like throwing a dog a bone.
Yeah, he's not a wild card. He's not a guy that's going to get in there and then go against him. He's a Kennedy. They know how to play the game. They were brought up playing the game.
what amazed me about him is the fact that 3/4 of his family were going to vote for him.
Wow.
That's, I mean, he was like, he straight up said it. He goes, a lot of my family aren't voting for me. They're voting Democratic and they don't agree with me running, but I got some that are. But he goes, I got a big family. Yeah. And it's like, I like his cavalier attitude. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Don't vote for me then.
Yeah.
So, Joe, what you got going on next couple weeks? You doing any traveling, or you staying home with the grandbaby?
Next week, heading down, doing the Tennessee Kentucky FBI Academy conference in Nashville. We're down there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Doing a presentation for that group. We got like a 4-hour presentation on organization and operational stress and the importance of resiliency for first responders. So, and then coming back for that, and then September is going to be all over the place as well. But home this week.
Well, that's good. Tommy, what about you? You got how's railroad life?
Oh God, 11-hour, 12-hour shifts every day. I'm looking forward to it slowing down just a little bit. I worked today. I went in there at 7 a.m. and got off at 6, and met my wife and the realtor. We went out here looking at homes, and we pulled in the parking lot here. I apologize that I was late, but we just pulled in the parking lot here, and it's like, God, I'm ready to go to bed, and I got to be back in there at 8 o'clock tomorrow. But I love it. I do love it.
Well, that's awesome.
So I'll be railroading and maybe buying a house this week.
Hey, will they transport your household goods on a train?
Well, it's. I have to tell you about this. This is kind of funny. I'll make it quick. One of the houses we looked at is actually on the line that I work on. It's in the backyard and the phone poles from the railroad are on the actual property. What's that? Telegraph. I'm sorry, the old telegraph. They're telephone lines, but they're the old telegraph lines from way back in the day are actually on the property itself in the backyard. I'm like, oh my God, this would be perfect. But the house
is Lauren there with you?
Yes.
No, sir.
Hey, right here.
Hey, what's up? Golly, what you do wrong to have to listen to all this shit tonight?
Been a bad journey.
She's over here. She's over here house shopping on her phone.
Well, I hope y'all the best on that. I bought my final house 3 years ago, and the next move for me is a cemetery. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a forever home. Yeah, but y'all been there 30 years? You've been in that house 30 years, I'm Tom.
Yeah, yep. I'm ready for. Well, this is the problem. The two houses we looked at tonight, the one house was perfect on the inside, but it was okay on the outside, but it was perfect on the inside. And then the other house was a perfect property. I mean, just beautiful, everything about it. And the bonus of being on the railroad track. But the house was just it was FUBAR. It was it's an octagon. It's shaped like it's an octagon. It's literally like a stop sign.
Well, it's kind of like when we bought this one, I told my wife, I said, make sure that you now we did paint the walls, but I told her, I said, make sure you like the paint on the walls, because we spend this kind of money, I'm not spending another dime.
That's what I want to move right in.
Well, good for y'all, and y'all definitely deserved it and earned it. Jason, tell us what's going on with One More and I'm out of here. What's going on with the podcast and what y'all got going on the next couple of weeks?
We're moving and shaking. Obviously, we've talked. We've had some formatting changes. With my buddy Rob getting sick, and then Dan Carroll having to step out for a little while. So Andrew's filled in, but still trying to do 2 a week. Andrew travels a lot, so I'll have guest hosts. So James, you might be getting a phone call.
I'd love to.
Phone call.
I'd love to. Tommy would be great, man. I'd love to. And Rich, you get Rich around every now and then. That guy stays busy, man.
Yeah, he does. But yeah, so we're trying to keep it moving. For Joe and Tom, we used to do it at a bar in the back room, and then we would have live events out front.
That's awesome.
With speakers and stuff. So we've had Marty Brenneman, Bronson Arroyo, Merle Hodge.
Nice.
Who else? Solomon Wilcots, who's a friend of ours.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
So we get a lot of live events, and we've been asked to come back to the bar. Well, I'm working right now on trying to get a date to get Marty and Tom Brenneman together. So, James, Marty and Tom Brenneman, you're a Reds fan.
Yeah.
You know who Marty is.
Mm-hmm.
So get him and his son together live in this new bar since they opened up.
That would be fantastic.
Oh, so that would be great.
We're working on it. It's a slow go, but
yeah,
we're getting there. I mean, we're a grassroots podcast that started three idiots sitting around a bar table saying, "Hey, we need to record this."
Kind of sounds familiar. Kind of like us. I tell you, I don't have the balls to do it yet, but one day, now Tom and Joe, let y'all know their podcasts are live, and I don't know if my mouth needs to go live.
Oh, it's easy.
I think it'd be great.
You get banned a couple times, you learn how to do it. It's fine.
Yeah. So there's pretty cool. I'm on there most of the time on their chat, and they've got a pretty good following, and they've got a live chat where they got this one guy who heckles them pretty good, but that makes it fun,
Yeah.
He's a severe douchebag liberal Democrat.
He's pretty bad. It got pretty bad. Last week it got pretty bad with him. He crossed the line a little bit last week, and
Andrew about lost his mind, but I mean kept it good. Like Andrew's just really good at it. He's a politician, so he knows how to do it. Me, right. I get pissed off.
I'm the same way. I get lit fused.
But I know who he is. I know who this dude is. So I'm like, all right, and I'll look right at the camera. I'm like, all right, we'll handle this. How about you shut your mouth? Because I just don't care. I mean, whatever. Yeah. But I said we've been in YouTube jail a couple times. We've definitely been in Facebook jail a couple times. There's an appeal process. It's fine.
Yeah, I got put in TikTok jail last week.
The only thing I don't do, like, because I'm still currently working, I don't say where I work. I mean, in this realm, I don't care. Yeah. And Tom, I mean, we've crossed paths before, but I wasn't sure if you knew me or not, but I never say where I work. Yeah. It's just Jason. I'm a fireman, whatever.
Yeah.
But my assistant chief listens, and he was like, "Oh man, that was a good one." I'm like, oh, "You gotta stop listening." Subscribe, just don't listen. And I never asked him to do any of this shit, but no, I mean, I keep it within the line, but YouTube is YouTube, and it is what it is.
Well, we're gonna.
Sorry about that. That's my phone. Sorry.
That's something that I'm interested in exploring in the next couple of months is looking at doing some live shows and seeing how that goes, because it's just being on y'all's. It just makes it a little bit more fun, Jason. With when y'all are you're talking and then you're filling these questions. You got some comments and. It's pretty fun, and then
it spurs conversation. That's what I like. And that one guy kind of, he screws it up, but he'll bring a good point. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't look at it that way. Hold on, let me fact check you. And then 9 times out of 10, I'd be like, no, you're wrong, because here, according to this. But it gets that discord, together, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, no, when I was on, he was heckling me, which I liked it, because I don't give a fuck if somebody disagrees or doesn't like what I say. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. And, with us three being retired cops, my main reason for doing this and passion was to being a voice for the people who can't, because, Jason, you're still somewhat restricted. I mean,
4 more years.
4 more years. When 4 years, you're really not going to be. And a cop, it's a little different because firemen are not under fire, I guess, like cops are.
I agree.
We get to come on here and we get to call bullshit on things that Tim Walz does and Kamala Harris does and some of these other ones, and that's what to me is important. For platforms like us, because we are small, all right. But how many are there like us?
A ton.
That's So we can't downplay the impact that we can have of being a small podcast and standing up for what's fucking right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've done, Joe. That's something. Tom, that's something that we've talked about, and all three are passionate about. We're gonna keep doing it, and if I think I can control my mouth enough, we may try to go live one day.
I love
it. And James, I don't mean to be out of turn here, but first time talking, in this venue with Tom and Joe, But you guys being police officers, I'm affiliated with another podcast called Failure to Stop, and it was geared off law enforcement. Now it's kind of turned into a first responder. It's still mainly, I'd say it's 80% law enforcement and then 20% firemen. There's a dispatcher on there. And I do a sports show on there, but they were doing 5 shows a week. So they do like a true or like kind of like a comedy shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tuesday they would do like a true crime. Wednesday is like ours, the hot button political stuff.
Yeah.
And then Thursday they're kind of taking a break right now, but Friday they do like a big police breakdown. So like, just for instance, like a George Floyd,
mm-hmm.
or, even Kyle Rittenhouse or whatever.
Yes.
So they'll do like a big breakdown, but it's geared toward law enforcement. And if you guys listen to podcasts, I urge you to go check Failure to Stop out. It's fun. It's comedic for the most part.
It's good. I've listened when I was in when I was in the airport, Kansas City, there and back. I was delayed several times because I traveled on the day that we had that power outage or that big power deal that happened throughout somewhere in the world. And I listened, Jason, to a bunch of them guys are good. They got some good stuff going on.
And they've got a huge following, and it's I was fortunate enough to be able to meet them and get affiliated with them and hang out. Like I go and travel and hang out with them. But obviously I want you to check out one more and I'm out of here too. But I mean, you guys being law enforcement, I think you guys would find, a lot of common ground there as well. So this is awesome. James and I've been talking about it. He's like, man, I got to get you out with Joe and Tom. And you're
welcome anytime. And let's do one more toast to Papa Joe over here. Or will we Papa Joe or Papa Joe?
Papa Joe.
Papa Joe.
My grandfather's name was Joe, and I always called him Papa Joe. So you're probably going to be Papa Joe to me.
No worries. I've been called worse.
Cheers to y'all, and again, give Paige our love and tell her how happy we are for y'all. And
James,
we'll have her on pretty soon.
James, I know why you're trying to cut this short is because your Michelle Obama's getting ready to come on, I think.
Oh,
did you see what she was wearing last night? My God. Could she have looked more like a dude?
I knew you were going to say that. I was saying it had to have been something that she looks like a guy because she does.
Oh, my God, Tom.
Well, the Drinker Bros podcast, they call her Big Mike.
Big Mike.
She's a nice man. She is a nice man. Don't worry.
Everybody be civil now.
You know what's funny? I can't believe I've been sitting here for almost an hour in the Ohio State Highway Patrol Batavia Post parking lot. And no one's said anything to me.
They're all in watching Mike.
Oh, no.
So,
Tom, where are you looking for a house at, real quick?
Actually, out on the east side here, we were looking at anything from like Batavia, Williamsburg, Mount Orab area.
Okay, all right. You're close. If you move out that way, then we'll have to hang out.
That sounds good. I heard you say Anderson. So if you know of any good listings there, let us know.
I definitely will.
All right.
Until tomorrow night for Wine Wednesday, McGee, Wells, Collins, and Kiefer are out.